So hey guys, today we have a great interview from Chris Hill. And Chris, welcome to the interview. I got your before and after, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
You as well. I've been a big fan and following your work for quite some time now.
Awesome. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about your history of what happened to you in the past? Did you have a weight issue? Do you have health issues? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. How far back do you want me to go? Just to the most recent, what led me to all this, or do you want me to...
Yeah. Was there like a tipping point where things were kind of getting out of control and you said, you know what, I better do something about this?
Sure. Well, yeah, there was. All through my life, I've pretty much had extra weight as a child. In my teen years, I did play sports, and I was more fit then. And then moving into my 20s, I started putting on weight. But if we fast forward into my late 20s, early 30s, where all this led me to you, essentially I had put on quite a bit of weight just through poor diet, eating habits, what I understand now to be insulin and leptin resistance, and just eating lots of foods that were telling me I'm still hungry when I wasn't, and all that kind of thing. But essentially, the issue that when I came across your channel had to do with digestion. I had kind of similar to a story you once told about the meatloaf, maybe your grandmother's meatloaf, where you had eaten the meatloaf and had the pain in the middle of the night. I had a very similar situation, and that was one of the earliest videos I saw, so it connected me. And it all started with pain in the right quadrant up here, the typical gallbladder, the fatty liver, whatever it may be. After having a big steak, I woke up in the middle of the night with excruciating pain. So I would say, if we fast forward to that's where it all began. My journey began to start this process of getting healthy.
Interesting. So it was more on digestion than actual weight, which was my thing as well. Like, being a guy, like, okay, you had a little weight issue, it's not a big deal, but when you start having pain in your gallbladder, you're like, kind of wakes you up.
Well, and what's interesting was I didn't know what it was. It was I had a lot of a burning sensation. I had the tightness, of course, in the shoulder, the neck, all of that. And I can remember I used to lay on tennis balls, golf balls right behind my right shoulder to get the pain down, and it seemed to give me temporary relief. But I didn't know about acupressure back then, which definitely works. But yeah, it led into just a lot of, I'd be walking through a door and I'd stop in the door jamb, and I would stick my back right there where that shoulder blade was to just try to get that knot to go away. It felt like a knot. So, I golf and I do these kind of things. So I thought maybe I tweaked my back. I didn't realize it was a diet issue at the time, and so I thought, hey, I must have, in the backswing done something wrong. So that's kind of, I had a lot of pain going on and I had a lot of confusion going on.
Hey, Chris, that's interesting. Let me just I want to tell people a little more about that, because what he's talking about is right shoulder, right quadrant problem, or underneath your right rib cage. What happened to me for about 12 years, I started having right shoulder pain, especially in your scapula on the right side, but on your right rhomboid back here. I started getting pain there, and of course I thought it was a wrestling injury, and I thought it was something like that. So I had no idea it was my gallbladder. So I actually ended up going into chiropractic school because of that, thinking maybe, I got some relief from an adjustment, so I want to do that, but didn't really connect the dots with the gallbladder. So this went on for years and years and years, to the point where, it just becomes chronic. Like, I used to lay in the snow and just try to get some relief on my back, and Wisconsin just to take the inflammation away and have all sorts of massage therapists, people work on my back. And so you probably saw the video, do you have right shoulder pain or something like that? Because I think that was the name of that video. And then once you saw the gallbladder, did a light bulb go off at that point and go, that's something new?
Well, this was premature to me finding your channel. So just to give a quick sketch of it all, this essentially led me into just my doctor's office. And we started the process of figuring out what it was, which in the end was a 3-year process, believe it or not. I was very busy with work. I was in a relationship, so it was kind of on the back burner. But I was certainly trying to figure out what was going on. Some weeks it was worse than others. So long story short, I ended up getting getting the ultrasound, scoped. I had HI pylori, all these different tests done, and they put me on medication, all these types of things, the Pepsid, ACE, the proton inhibitors and all that kind of thing. And while that gave me temporary relief, because I also obviously associated with this, I had terrible indigestion. Over time, I eventually came across your material, and I believe it was along the lines of digestion or the acid reflux, because that, of course, played hand in hand in this, and that was a very problematic as well. And I know there's some controversy on HI pylori, but I did test positive for that. But I know that that whether it's a breath test, blood test, stool test, I know there's people look at that differently, but I did test positive, so they put me on all the antibiotics and all this kind of thing. So it was just a process, kept going. Through this process, I quit eating. I just couldn't eat anything. So I ended up losing quite a bit of weight, not to where I'm at now, but I lost a good bit of weight strictly from just not eating, not because of intermittent fasting, but I just couldn't eat. It was just too painful, and so that's what led me into Dr. Berg's channel and information and following you.
Wow.
And learning from you, getting an education from you.
Did you see the video I did on just massaging your gallbladder? Did you see that? And did you do that?
Well, and yeah, when I learned about it, I didn't use the tool, but I used just the hands. I did, but that was later down the line, of course. So I didn't find that initially. Initially, what fixed the acid reflux was acidifying the stomach. And I didn't believe when the thing about your approach that I appreciate, it's like with your blood numbers and all these things, you say just try it. Be an empiricist about it. If it works, you'll know it. If it doesn't, switch it up. And that's what I did. I started taking the apple cider vinegar. I started taking the digestive enzymes. It took a little bit of time, but it certainly started changing, especially when I got rid of all the GMOs and started incorporating strictly the organic selection at the store. It took time, but those things I started being able to see that my digestion was off and my acid was off, in fact. And so you snowball that then you learn about the acupressure, and you learn about more and more about how all these mechanisms work inside the body. It's just an ongoing education. You can keep trying new things, and that's what happened.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great demonstration to do. If I'm doing a seminar and someone comes up with right shoulder pain, you work on the gallbladder, you just press underneath the right rib cage, the pain goes off like a switch, and they go, how did you do that? I think people think that it's just the fatty foods, but it's really the sugar and the refined crap that we eat that cause the gallbladder to go bad. So fast forward, you probably got some improvement with the gallbladder, and then you watch other videos, right?
Oh, yeah, I've probably watched them all. The webinars you used to do, your older material, I really, really dug into those because they were long and they were very informative. I didn't watch them live. I got to watch them recorded. And I would recommend anybody out there who's looking to learn more about what you talk about, go to those webinars. the ones you do in your other office or whatnot at home, those are they're packed with information. So yeah, I started going through all those things, and then I started going into the nutritional ketosis lifestyle. I always say nutritional ketosis because a lot of people, when I say keto, they go to that 80-90% fat, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, the low carb, the 20, 25, maybe 50, whatever it may be for somebody. I like to make that distinction because I like talking with family and friends. You say the word keto, then they go online and they're confused, and now you have, a long conversation. So going through all that material and taking just lots of notes, yeah, it absolutely just kept improving and improving, and of course then the weight, after the digestion was fixed, like you say, you got that, then the weight just, again, I didn't come to this for weight loss. It just naturally started reducing. And I have to believe it's because of the reduction of carbohydrates. It's, not so much of intaking bukus of fat, but more so lowering the carb. And, insulin stays low, and glucagon can release. It's, the way I understand it now, I know that's simplified, but to me, it just makes sense. So certainly I did keto 3 meals a day for about the first year. This is before I knew about intermittent fasting. I didn't really implement intermittent fasting till about 3 months ago. Now I do intermittent fasting and either 1 or 2 meals max.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're right. You skip that breakfast. I don't do the cheat or not the cheat, but some people put cream and MCT oil, and they don't think it's breaking a fast. I keep it water or black coffee, and I make it to lunch, have my 2 meals, and I'm satisfied. And I have you I want to say this. I have you to thank for that, because the digestion, obviously, you fix that first, then all this stuff just kind of, it's like dominant. It just keeps falling. It goes right. And now it's like you get the nutrients out of the food, you feel good, and that's why I continue with you and following this, because it's proven.
That's great. I love it. Yeah, there's nothing like a personal experience to know for yourself that, hey, it worked, And then, so give me an example of what your meal would consist of.
Okay, and I did want to mention this. If anybody out there is trying to I made an Instagram thing. I don't do it anymore, but it's just called 10-4 Keto. TEN, the number 4, and keto. And what I did was I did a food log, and all it strictly is keto foods. And what I ate for the first year, that was my 3 meals. But I now have changed it up a little bit. I've kind of cut out a lot of like the bacon and things like that. Not because it's bad, but I've wanted to try something different. So now mostly for lunch, because I'll skip breakfast. I might have black coffee for breakfast, but for lunch, I typically have sardines, because I do that for the GABA and all the omega-3. That's really important, as the keto has really helped my mind. But I typically am eating sardines or a wild salmon. All of these things are wild. With avocado, typically, with nutritional yeast and turmeric on that avocado. Every now and then I'll add some macadamians. I'll add some butter, some Kerrygold. I'll just pour it over the fish, and obviously salad. The thing about the potassium is so important, and I supplement as well with the wheatgrass juice and of course coconut oil. I use all those things. But basically, a lunch is typically like that. I don't tend to eat too big of meals, because I just seem to do better with a little bit less. And then dinner's pretty much the same thing. Maybe some mushrooms added. If I eat sardines for lunch, I'll usually eat wild salmon for dinner, and then I'll switch them. But typically nowadays, I'm only eating fish. That's my main protein source, and fat too, to a certain degree. So that blog I did kind of isn't fish, and now it is fish. And I think it's important just for me to say to you, and just for everybody, because you already know this, I lost a good bit of weight doing the 3 meals a day, exactly how you explained them. But when I've gotten towards the end now, where my maintenance is going to be, doing the intermittent fasting and switching to 2 meals, the weight loss is a little bit slower, which is understandable because the measurements are changing. But it works, and it's good to get the last weight off, is what I'm trying to say.
That's awesome. What was the amount of weight that you lost so far?
Well, I'm 70 pounds.
Wow, I didn't even realize that's incredible.
Yeah, and that's been over 18 months. So it's taken time, but it's something I've kind of just, I wouldn't say enjoy, but it's a learning process. So I have enjoyed it. It's something I've been learning all these new things. It's very informative.
Do you have people around you that are that look at you and go, "What the heck did you do?" I mean, are they kind of impressed, or are they kind of like, what's the reaction that you're getting with people around you?
Yeah, they want to know. The people who knew I was overweight and have stabled off now, they want to know about what I've done, and I've had those conversations. So I typically, I'll have a short conversation, but then I'll point them to the professionals and people who do this for a living. I mean, if someone wants to have an in-depth conversation, I'm up for it. But at the end of the day, yeah, absolutely. I've talked to a lot of people about it in my immediate circle. Outside of that, even if acquaintances, I don't really go into it. But, and along those lines, a lot of people look at the ketogenic diet, nutritional ketosis, as, oh, it's just like a diet. And I agree with you that it's not. It's an eating style. It's a lifestyle, and it's very doable. I mean, I eat at home mostly. I kind of freak out about going to restaurants because I just don't know what they're cooking with. And I watch all the oils and all those things that they talk about or that, you can find research for and stuff. But I think more so now I'm more into the research behind it all. Researching the research, like I like to say. I like to look at those things and look at the studies and see what's really, dividing the information.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm the same way. I like to really know the mechanics of it. I want to know why it works. I want to see if there's any new research. I'm like into it big time. There's two things I want to mention to people watching this. Number one, when you start doing this over a period of time and you start to switch over to fat burning 100%, so you're burning your own fat, you may even find that your hunger goes away. Like you could just keep going and you're not even hungry because you're burning this fat. It's only until you start eating that you start like, oh, so now I'm really hungry. But the point is that because you're burning fat, one of the things that it talks about in guidance physiology is that you could end up with fatty liver if you just look online and try to do ketosis as ketosis, because it says keep your carbs to 20 to 50 grams. Well, that would be like one piece of bread. It doesn't talk about consuming a lot of vegetables with the ketogenic diet. That's what I'm telling you to do, because it'll prevent a fatty liver, give you the potassium you need for the nutrients to get you healthy, and also it keeps the liver clean, so you don't end up with a fatty liver, and you'll minimize any type of bad effect that ketosis can do. I mean, it just forces your body into a fat burning effect, which, if you're getting all your nutrients, is totally healthy. So I think that one thing is, people say, well, you have to consume all this fat on a ketogenic diet. Once you get into it, you're going to find you don't even need to do as much fat as in the beginning part as you're having a hard time going from meal to meal. Like, you might even feel a little nauseous if you do too much butter or something like that. So play around with it. It's just kind of, it's a learning experience, and those are the 2 points I wanted to recommend. That's all.
If I can just say one thing along that line, I did I went against for a month or so reducing the salads and things that I had been doing in mass amounts, and I had a lot of digestion issues and constipation and things like that. So I like to test things just to see how I react to them. And since then, I won't do that anymore. I keep, like you're saying, the vegetable and the salad very high.
I'm the same way. It's like, even sometimes I'll test it out And if I don't eat vegetables on a certain day, I just don't feel quite right. I'm like, you know what? You need to put it in there. So awesome. Hey, Chris, you have an amazing before and after. It's a great live demonstration of how you did this correctly and tested it as well. So you have an amazing before and after, 70 pounds, and that's awesome. So
well, yeah, and thank you for all that you do. You really are helping a lot of people out here, and we're driving people to your site. I know it's not just me, just because it works, and if you follow what you say, it will work. It might take time, but it works if you stick with it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Chris. Great. So keep me updated on your future progress, and we may do this in the future sometime. But it was nice meeting you.
You as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.